Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Brandforsk and our result webinar about roadmap for measurable sustainability indicators for the fire safety community. My name is Mattias Delin, and I'm the research director here at Brandforsk. And with me today, I have Francine Amen. Good morning, Francine.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm very good. And you?
Oh, I'm good, thank you. First of all, Francine, who are you?
Well, I am Francine Amen from Rice. I work in the fire research division. I came to Sweden in 2011, so it's coming up on 12 years now. And most of the work that I've done since I came to Sweden has something to do with the impact of fire on the environment. And in recent, well, let's say the last year or so, I've been trying to expand that research into a broader sense of sustainability rather than only environmental impacts. And before I came to Sweden, I worked at the National Institute of Standards and Technology in the US for some time and worked in the area of firefighter technology. So I've got sort of two different things that I have, done a lot of work in.
Yeah. And among many things, you've done some studies funded by Brandforsk also that later on became an education for firefighters in Sweden, how to extinguish different fires or make tactical decisions so that they can decrease the environmental impact of their work. So that's good. It makes a difference.
Well, thank you. It's really nice to, have that feeling that what you're passionate about for work actually makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to soon see your presentation, but I'm just going to give a short information about Brandforsk and what is going on here, and then we're going to see the presentation. So I'll be back to you soon, Francine. Thank you. Okay, just a short information about Brandforsk. For those of you who are not already familiar with us, we have a vision, a fire-safe and sustainable society built on knowledge. We develop and communicate knowledge to limit the negative consequences of fire in the society. We started in 1979, and for 4 years now we've been a foundation. And our supporting organizations, they fund everything that we do. So this makes us a collaboration between many parts of the society. The fundraising so far this year is about 670,000 euro, and I hope that we can raise more money because we have a lot of applications from researchers right now that are really interesting. But for now, we have actually spent all the money on research that we have this year, so I hope that we can raise more. And the money we get, of course, we use most of it for funding research projects like Francine's here. And we work a lot with result communication so that you can get use of the results. And we also have a research school for practicing fire safety engineers, and we have scholarships for students. And these are the organizations that have supported us so far this year. So thank you very much to all of you. And the fundraising is still open, and I hope that more of you are interested in supporting us. Now, the program for today, after this short introduction, we will have a presentation from the project by Francine. It takes about 30 minutes. And we will have a poll with you regarding sustainability and some of the questions that Francine are talking about in the presentation as well. And there's time for questions. You can write your questions in the Q&A, and we will pick them up and try to answer them. So now let's get to the presentation.
Hi, I'm Francine Amen from Rice, and I'm going to talk about my project called Roadmap for Measurable Sustainability Indicators for the Fire Safety Community that was funded by Brandforsk. So this is a small pre-study project that started this February, and it will end before summer. So it's not quite finished, so there's still a little bit of work left to do. The purpose of the project is to learn about how sustainability intersects with fire safety, and the goals then would be to understand how sustainability is handled among various target groups within the fire safety community, and then find out what they need in the way of measurable sustainability indicators, which I'm just going to call indicators from now on because that's a mouthful. And then also to provide some kind of a roadmap for future work in this area. So this project has a very large reference group. There are 12 people on it, and they represent these target groups: fire service suppliers, fire safety engineers, researchers, some of which also are active in standards, and authorities. And then through these target groups, I've also received secondary contacts with insurance companies and policymakers. So what got me to make this proposal to start with was the fact that I've noticed that recently, in the last few years, I've been asked to justify my ideas and projects and decisions in terms of sustainability more and more frequently. And I think, well, okay, fine, that's good. It's actually really good. It's about time we start thinking about sustainability in everything we do. So the problem, though, is that it's such a wide concept that it's hard to define. And various people with various roles, especially within the fire safety community, might have very different definitions about what sustainability is. So it's hard to talk about. Most of the fire safety community doesn't really have expertise in this area. So if they're asked to justify their sustainability of their idea or whatever, it could be really hard for them. How do they do it? So I think there's a need for a systematic approach to quantify sustainability, at least in some areas of fire safety. The reason I believe that a lot of this focus has appeared recently is because in 2015, the United Nations developed the Agenda 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, which I'm just going to refer to as goals, or SDGs, in future slides. And those goals have been adopted by the EU and other regions and across the globe. And they use statistical indicators mainly to monitor and report progress towards greater sustainability. And they also then would be interested in collecting information to feed into their statistics in a traceable way from member states in the case of the EU. And then those statistics, they come from somewhere. So then they would be collected by agencies and authorities and what have you. And that's where the connection is to the sustainable systematic approach. So I just wanted to explore this dynamic and see if it's possible to move forward with some kind of a roadmap to get from this side to this side in a smooth way. So what I did is I asked the reference group, who are representing these target groups, about how they define sustainability and how their organization works with sustainability. And I also asked them what kinds of indicators would be useful to them, if not necessarily exactly, but in general. And then I also asked them some questions about how we could progress beyond this project into future projects. And so that's how this presentation is organized. We'll start out with getting the information from the target groups about their sustainability needs, and then we'll talk more about future work. So there were a lot of fire researchers that I got feedback from. Not surprising, I'm a researcher. I know a lot of researchers. So there's a lot of information here from the research community. And so, don't be overwhelmed. The rest of the target groups are maybe not quite so heavy. But as far as sustainability in general goes, most researchers define it in the way of the Brundtland Commission in their report in 1986 called Our Common Future, as sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And I think that's a really great definition. Frequently, this is also expressed in terms of environmental, economic, and social impacts. Can also be defined as a safeguard within the rules of the game that actions taken in processes have the least possible negative and most probable positive social, economic, and environmental impact. Agenda 2030 is a useful platform for communicating among people that have very different backgrounds or different agendas, so to speak, so that we can work together toward common goals. Sustainability is used as one of the aspects when allocating resources like funding for projects or effort for project applications. And in the case of Lund University, they use it in the development of new courses for their fire safety engineering program and probably other programs as well. At Rice, we have procedures and guidelines for dealing with the smoke and fire water runoff from our fire labs. So we do, concern ourselves with sustainability in that sense. And also everyone at Rice has to make a sustainability statement about their new projects, which is kind of, well, it's good in the sense that it makes people think about sustainability. It could go a lot further, but it's a good first start. Compare that to Brandforsk, where they do everything in terms of sustainability and Agenda 2030. And if they have an issue that isn't really directly addressed in Agenda 2030, then they figure out a way to do their own analysis in terms of the environmental, economic, and social aspects of sustainability. We feel that research can help stakeholders who could be project partners, they could be the funding organizations, it could be any stakeholder, include sustainability in their decision-making process. And when it comes to measurable sustainability indicators, there is value in measurable and validated indicators for ranking different options, for monitoring progress over time, and for being able to communicate research results in a way that is more consistent, and also so that people can understand the consequences of their decisions better. We need indicators to express fire safety in terms of more than money and casualties. When there's a fire event, typically what you hear about is so-and-so, there were this many injuries and deaths, and then it cost this much money. But fire safety, fire events have such a more broad impact on society than that. It's so much bigger than that. And indicators can help express how much bigger it is than just those two issues. There has been found in research in building engineering that sustainability and fire safety have impacts on different design choices. Indicators could help engineers and architects motivate people, other stakeholders, to choose options that are both sustainable and fire safe, or at least not have them working against each other. The indicators ideally would be something that could be aggregated, so they could be used at different levels, but also be used to compare different objectives, maybe at a lower level. They would be intuitive, hopefully, so that most people can understand them and use them, and it doesn't require a PhD to figure out what they mean. And examples Possible examples might be something like the number of people forced from home or school due to fire or false alarms, and that could be expressed as an indicator with person day dimensions or student hour dimensions, just as an example. Also, it was pointed out that procurement has a huge impact, and it's almost never measured at a project level. And this is true for actually many levels of research organizations. Procurement is this big issue, but the sustainability part, the upstream and downstream impacts don't usually come into it. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. Okay, so that was the researchers, and now we're going to talk about fire safety engineers. And there were several fire safety engineers that were part of the project, and the comments come from different ones. Basically, a really good definition actually provided by one of the fire safety engineers was that sustainability is to find solutions that are good for nature, will stand over time, and don't cost too much. It's really good functional kind of definition. They work with sustainability within their company, so they look at the well-being of their employees, and they also look at their climate footprint as far as things like travel and workspaces go. Another company has certified themselves to ISO 14001, and that company has also focused on sustainability from a climate perspective, but they also have shown their clients their value in keeping communities safe from fire. The problem that is faced by fire safety engineers is that they may be aware of links between fire design and safety, but they're not necessarily the ones that make the decisions early enough in the projects to actually have an influence. And so it can be hard to get these other decision makers to understand fire safety and sustainability when they're doing the designs. Another company now helps their clients understand fire safety in terms of more than just cost. Now they look at cost and sustainability. Then as far as indicators go, some suggested categories would be climate impact or environmental impacts and social indicators. And what they would do, and this is kind of a reiteration, is they would use these indicators to help them in design choices and also to help convince their clients to make sound, sustainable and fire safety decisions. But it's a big, big issue, especially in building. There's so many different kinds of indicators that you could use, many. And so it may be possible or may be necessary to decide which ones to focus on depending on the project and the goals at the time. Okay, so now moving on. For the fire service, in general, they operate in as sustainable a way as possible. They look at their emissions, they look at their energy use and travel, and the kinds of chemicals they use. And also they're interested in reducing the amount of chemicals in the water, whether it's fire water runoff at a fire event or if it's from washing the turnout clothes that the firefighters use that get covered with pollutants. And they also work with social sustainability in the sense that they need to work together with other actors to keep the community safe. So as far as indicators go, it's easier to point out the differences between choices if you have a way to measure the differences. So you can make better choices. Indicators would be used for making tactical and methodological choices. And by this, I mean that the indicators could be used to indicate how much water is used, how dirty it is, what kinds of contaminants are in it, and smoke, what's going on with the smoke. And these are things that they can track over time. So if they change their procedures or if something else changes, they can see what the effect is over time. for the fire service supplier, in general, they say that it is easy to connect sustainability only to environmental definitions. But here, they are focusing mostly on the social side of things. They are in the process of certifying themselves to ISO 26000, and they're almost finished with that. And what they're doing is the homework they need to trace their upstream and downstream sources and train their staff and prepare how they can use all of this work to help make their offers stronger on the market. How they do it is they will have checklists, and they'll go through these checklists when they bring new products into their catalog. And if the product has enough checks, then it's in. If it doesn't have enough checks, it's not in, unless it has some kind of special, overriding reason to bring it in. And every year, then they would reevaluate their checklist and change it if they need to. And they say that 26,000 is a good start, but it's a self-declaration. It's not a third-party certification. Okay, so then with respect to indicators, they think that it would be almost impossible to have measurable indicators and apply it to their company because of the different ways that companies would create their self-declaration or their sustainability profile. And so, in fact, indicators would probably just make the situation more complicated, and they're not wanted. Right now, at this point in time, the only indicator that they need is one to show that they have an active sustainability profile. All right, so that was the information that was collected from the target groups. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about where this information could go and how it could be used. So theoretically, there's a flow of information that comes from the United Nations through the Agenda 2030 into, in our case, the EU, and then to the member states, and then maybe to agencies and municipalities, and then eventually it arrives with us, where we're required to justify our ideas and projects and decisions. So are there gaps or disconnections in this flow of information? Maybe. We need to learn more about that. How do our needs differ from the needs at different levels of this flow? Could be that there are conflicts even. Maybe they're not the same. Maybe they even are in conflict with each other. And then also, how does it work? What is the infrastructure that's used? How should the data be interoperable or talk to each other? These are items that eventually we will need to know. Maybe not right now, but down the line. So here is a diagram that I made. It's really busy, but it's a complex issue, just to show how things could travel, how the data could flow. So here we are in our messy world down here in this gray patch, right? And we are the target groups. And suppose that we identify our sustainability needs in the form of indicators, measurable indicators, okay? And then suppose that we follow the process used in life cycle assessment, which could work, actually. So let's just see how this plays out. We have characterization factors. Those would be our indicators that characterize what our needs are. And we would need to do something. We'd need to put a weighting on them, for instance, because they're not all equally important. We may need to normalize them. Maybe it's important to have absolute values. Maybe it's better to use them in a relative sense. So then they would be normalized. And then we'd need to map them into categories somehow. And I made some categories here, 3 different sets of categories that cover most of fire safety, but it's not a comprehensive list. But then we would need to map our indicators into these categories and into these particular areas somehow. Okay, and then once we've done that, we'd need to do another mapping exercise to get from here into whatever the end goal is, whether it's the Agenda 2030 goals or if it's something else. It could be that at least in some cases, something else would work better for us. And the reason I say that is because these goals are measured, they're key performance indicators or KPIs are measured according to high level statistics. So for example, with the goal number 7, which is energy, affordable and clean energy. Those goals are measured in terms of the proportion of the population with access to electricity, for example, or what is the renewable energy share of the final energy consumption, for example. So it's hard to connect those kinds of key performance indicators with what we're doing down here in our messy world. And the same is true for the other goal 11, which is sustainable cities and communities, which you would think might have a pretty close connection to fire safety. But then when you look at the KPIs here, you've got proportion of the urban population living in inadequate housing. Yeah, okay, for the building industry, yeah, that fits. And then also cultural and natural heritage expenditures. They're good goals, but they don't, if you're a firefighter, for instance, it might be pretty hard to connect to that. And so, we have to think about that. Another way of looking at it is this way. This is a diagram that I got from my colleague, Nicholas Schmidt from Rice, who knows a lot more about this side of things than I do. And so here he shows that there are global organizations that provide information, provide a framework like Agenda 2030 and information into one or more databases. And it's also connected to statistical organizations for us, it would be in the EU. And again, all this information is held somewhere, stored, translated, turned into useful data that then can be accessed by national reporting requirements or through national reporting requirements from the member states, who get the information from their agencies, who get their information from authorities, who eventually get it from us. So the question is, does this really work? And are there any impediments to the flow? And there is a big question here, at least as far as Sweden goes. Right here, it could be that the way our government is structured makes it difficult to report our sustainability in this way. Some of the other countries in the EU don't have this problem. So this is worth investigating, because it would be a shame to go to all this trouble to develop our indicators and then not have them be accessible to a system like this that already exists. All right, now, so that's more food for thought and more areas to learn more about. We're shifting gears again now to the future. So I asked the reference group to identify target groups, and they have, and some of them, like the insurance and the policymakers, have been contacted, and I'm waiting for them to respond. There are other organizations here and target groups that could be a source of information and could also be partners in future projects. Also, the reference group was asked about, do you know of any other work that should be included in this pre-study or subjects for future work? Where to go from here? And there were some responses here. Most of them have to do with the building industry, because it's a huge industry and because it is really, pretty obvious how sustainability and fire safety could work within this industry. There's a project called Safer BE that's at Lund, and also with Meacham Associates, funded by SFPE, about developing a methodology to make sustainability indicators for the building materials and product choices. And it's actually really closely related to this project. There's a request for studies regarding the reuse of products and how to handle constructions in wood related to the building industry, and then looking at indicators that are developed by other organizations like BREEAM and Sundahus and Spannen, and see how that can help. Could we work together? Could we benefit from each other's work? And then there are a couple of other things not related to the building industry. There are other projects ongoing at Brandforsk that could be, we could have mutual interests and work together maybe in the future, and that's good. And also there was a request to look at how to create or communicate market value for companies that have sustainability profiles. All right, so I am going to give you a summary of the sustainability needs of the target groups that we looked at within this project, and then I'll be done. So for everyone, their organizations would benefit from considering sustainability in their operations, one way or the other, right? And also their procurement processes could be improved by including sustainability within the process. For fire service suppliers, they don't think they need measurable indicators. They're quite happy having a sustainability profile right now, but what they would like is to have procurement processes that require their vendors to have a sustainability certificate or something like that. For fire service, their indicators would focus on fire water runoff and smoke to help them when they're making tactical decisions on the fire ground. Also, they would like to have indicators that help show their contributions to a safer society. For fire safety engineers, indicators could help them communicate the need for and balance between sustainable and fire-safe buildings to other actors that have decisions to make during the design of buildings. For fire researchers, indicators would show progress towards sustainability, either on a project level or at other levels within the organizations. And also, it could they could be a way to communicate the benefits of fire research to stakeholders. Okay, so that was it. I'd like to thank you for your attention. I hope you have a really great day. I know it's kind of early in the morning, but it's a good way to start like this, right? So if you have any questions, you can contact me by email or by phone. I work half-time now during the even weeks, but you can always email me or phone me, and if I've got my phone in my hand or if I'm at my computer, I'll answer. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Francine, and welcome back live with me, and we can go to the poll with the audience. I really enjoyed your presentation, Francine, not only for the question that you're trying to answer and the way forward on sustainability work, but also this is kind of, you capture a moment in time here. Where did we stand in 2023 on our journey towards a sustainable society? And maybe we will pick this up in a few years now, look back, okay, what did we say in 23 and where are we now? So this is valuable for the capturing of our own history here.
Yeah, I hope we can look back and say, wow, we've made so much progress since then.
Yeah, exactly. I think we will. I think this journey is ongoing and is still speeding up quite a lot, and more and more people getting on board, so that's good. Okay, let's see at the poll now. Should we? I think you can take over. What do you see and what do you think about it, Francine?
Well, it looks like most people have been asked to justify their decisions projects and ideas in terms of sustainability. So I'm not the only one that's been asked this. That's a good start. And most of them think that their area of fire safety could benefit from having these indicators, and that's especially good. It seems that the answers, how do you use, or how would you use measurable sustainable indicators? They're pretty much in line with the information that I got from the target groups.
Right.
I don't see any surprises here. I'd like to know what other is, but aside from that, yeah.
Okay. Right. Send an email to Francine about the other things.
It'd be interesting. Let's see here. Do you have input? Okay, so some people have input. Please contact me. I would love to hear what you have to say. Those of you who say, I don't know, it's sustainability, as I started, in the presentation at the beginning, it's a big sort of fluffy subject that's hard to really, it's hard to get a handle on, and how it could affect you, or how you do your business, or how, you contribute to society and all that sort of thing. It's really kind of hard to think about. And so if you have questions about how your role within your organization, or your organization in general, or anything, can improve both sustainability and fire safety, please contact me. Ask me your questions. I really want to know. And I don't know if I can answer them for you. I don't have all the answers at all yet. I'm just kind of right now fishing around for what are the good questions to ask. But let's have a conversation. So contact me, please.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, it's a great resource that we have you, Francine. And
Yes.
and I think many of those watching now are probably quite on board with this, and as many other things that we implement in society, it starts with kind of a sidetrack in your business. Okay, can someone please look at this sustainability issue? But along the way, it kind of becomes, from being a sidetrack, it becomes part of the main track, really, and how we make our decisions. For example, it's a huge transition to do for an organization, but also as for us as individuals. Not only look at the price, for example, but look at the other aspects as well.
Well, and that's something I was going to bring up in the presentation, but it slipped by me. Most people think of sustainability as like life cycle assessment or environmental impacts. And I've been asked many times to, a few times, to provide life cycle assessment, because I do that as part of my job for a project, because they have a sustainability objective within the project. And then I have, it's my job to educate them and say, look, I can do life cycle assessment for you if that's what you need. But if you're trying to really get your arms around sustainability, it's a lot more than that. You need to think about the social consequences of your project.
Yeah.
Money wise, and this is something, Matthias, that I know you understand well, it's the real impacts that we're talking about mostly are societal and environmental, and money is, sometimes it's more of a carrot than anything else to motivate people to do the right thing.
And a tool, to be able to do the right thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So without money, you can't. It's hard to make things happen.
Yeah.
But money itself is not like a. It does not suffer the impacts of bad decisions. It's the environment and the people that do that.
Yeah, and I think so too. That fire safety is very much a social social questions, and it really affects our social society way more than we have been measuring in the past. So I think
Absolutely.
we can do a lot on that side. Yeah. Thank you. Moving on from the poll now, we have some questions coming in, and please write your questions in the Q&A. And one here is about data quantifying the effects of show environmental, social, and economic consequences of fires. And I mean, you're in an early stage of your road mapping here, but do you think will we be able to do that, to quantify more?
Eventually, we would. Right now, I would say that the information I have is purely qualitative, not quantitative. At some point, I'd like to think that we'd be able to quantify these impacts using our, measurable sustainability indicators. But we're not at that point yet. So no, I can't share anything in a quantitative sense at this point.
No. Right. We have another question here about access to this video recorded, and we record the entire webinar, and it's on our YouTube channel and webpage in a few days. So please use it. That's exactly what we want you to do. Use it and share it, and so forth. I've been thinking about more and more. I came from the building industry before I came to Brandforsk. That we talk a lot about value of buildings, but not. I mean, why did we build them? If we try to focus on the function of the building and what impact does this building have on the purpose of it, can we? For an office, for example, we build an office to use that to work in, but COVID showed us that we could do without it. But a school, for example, it's kind of hard to do education without a school building. You can do it, but it suffers quite a lot in quality. Do you think it would be a way forward to look more of what is the function of the building, what is the purpose of the building, and what are the effects of losing that building or have it in out of order for some time, instead of looking traditionally at the economic value of it?
Well, okay, one thing that pops into my mind is, would it be useful to design buildings in a more multifunctional way so that, it was a school and now it can be something else? Then you might think that it would be more sustainable that way. If there's no longer a need for a school and you have a building that can't be used for any other purpose, then you're kind of stuck. Whereas, a more flexible type of design might be beneficial.
Yeah, so you add on a bit of flexibility when you design the building in the beginning, and
yeah, but then you have also that makes it's another complication in the design of the building to start with, and it may fly in the face of economics, and many decisions are based on costs. So it could be hard for that sort of thought process to make to move forward. But looking in the long term, it could be better.
Yeah.
So there are short-term versus long-term decisions to make. I guess that's what it gets down to.
Yeah. A lot of people talk about resilience since a couple of years back, to withstand stress on our society. Do you think is resilience a useful mindset in the sense of sustainability?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think so, yeah. I mean, if you're not resilient, then you can't change when it's time to change. You can't be flexible. And we need to be more flexible and allow our resources to be used in different ways in order to, accommodate changes in the climate, for example, or societal changes, demographic changes. And I think that resilience is, in my mind at least, is a way of thinking of being more flexible to stresses in your environment, whether it's economic stresses or environmental stresses or social stresses. So yeah, if you could be more flexible and adaptive, then you would be more sustainable too.
Yeah.
That was kind of a weird answer, but yeah, I mean, yes.
I find it useful. Please ask your questions in the Q&A, and Francine will pick them up. So what do you think? What is your next step in your work with this? Have you been thinking about that?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that. I'm going to finish up this project, and the last part of it, we have a final meeting next week with the project, and that's going to be devoted to next steps. So who among us is interested in collaborating on proposals for new work? What are some good ideas for proposals for follow-on projects? Who would be good partners? Who would be good sources of funding? All of that. So yeah, we're focusing on the future now.
Yeah, that's very good. Yeah. We have a question here. Are there collaborations between different markets within these issues that you know of? Energy and fire, ventilation and fire and such. Did you discover anything like that?
Well, there's a project going on at Lund University that's fire safe and sustainable building environment, I believe is the name of it. And it looks at that, basically. It looks at what the connections are between various aspects of the built environment and sustainability. So connections between energy, the energy sector, and the building sector, and waste management, let's say. And I'm sort of on the edge of that project, so I don't know the details, but it is looking at how to develop an indexing or indicator system that could bring all this together, so that when you're designing a building, you can visibly see what your decisions are as far as sustainability and fire safety go, because they don't necessarily go hand in hand everywhere along the design process.
Right.
But yeah, that does include a number of different sectors in society. And I would invite you to contact Margaret McNamee at Lund University, or Brian Meacham from Meacham Associates. And if you want to, you can email me or call me, and I'll give you their information, and they can tell you a lot about that project. It's an interesting project.
Very good, very good. Yeah, maybe we can invite them to a webinar later on. That would be fun. Yeah, but that's good that they do this. Fire safety is practically never a standalone thing. We interact with other parties, and so that's really important that we find ways doing that. And I think the agenda itself, Agenda 2030, is a great platform for many parts to meet. You can be very different in different organizations and have different models for how you work, but hopefully you can share one spot, meet there, and say let's go together towards this goal here. And we have some more questions here. I'm gonna read some. It's a long suggestion here. I can read it, and you can comment on it. It says perhaps one could pay more attention to the 7 questions in the RCM, reliability centered maintenance, when making decisions regarding entirely new buildings, or all the way or all the way down to product selection and the manner in which one wishes to produce something. RCM poses the critical and concrete questions in order to make the best choice within the domains of economics, health and safety, and environmental durability, and so on. Have you any reflections on that?
I haven't seen the RCM questions, but thank you. Yes, I
Great.
will look at that and see how they can help. And health, safety, and environment as well. So thank you very much.
Yeah, good. Some more input to your work. That's great. Yeah.
That was a bonus for doing the webinar, is to be able to get more input. So thank you very much. It's a good opportunity.
Yeah. Any suggestions for the audience, what to process in their minds during the summer now and start up in the autumn? In their work, anything that you want to send with them?
Yeah, think about how you handle sustainability within your role in your organization, and what kinds of things you think in your life, in your work life, can be benefited by having measurable indicators. So, just think about it. If something pops into your head, let me know. I would be interested. Also, you saw the target groups that I got input from, and also the slide that had other potential target groups on it. And you'll see that if you download the recording in a couple days. But if you can think of other actors that should be involved in this discussion, then I would appreciate that information as well.
Yeah. Maybe they are another actor, so listening right now. And the report, you have a couple of more weeks to work with it, but it will be published during the summer. So
and if you have ideas for collaborations, for new work that's following this work, contact me about that too.
Yeah. That's a very good last words. Yeah, I think sustainable society is a collaboration, so of course let's take care of that and collaborate. So thank you, Francine. I will give some information about what's coming up next here at Brandforsk. Thank you, and thank you for all your questions.
Bye. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye. Now, I just want to remind you about our fundraising, and we have a model now that you can actually choose what we should use the money for. And as I said, we have a lot of need for research about fire safety and our sustainable society. And we have a lot of good researchers applying for money, and they have lots of good ideas about projects to do. But for now, we are actually out of project money for this year. So I hope that we can raise some more and get some more projects running during the fall. So please get in touch with us, and we will try to have more research going on. You can always see what's going on here at Brandforsk at our web page, and we have a special page for the webinars. This is our last webinars before the summer, and we're starting up in September again. We have a lot of webinars coming up this fall. We have a lot of projects ending, so it will be a busy autumn for us, and hopefully for you as well. Many Fridays to look forward to, and our morning webinars. And I also want to inform you about our podcast, a podcast for everyone who doesn't like fires. It's in Swedish, but you can play it up really slow if you not already know Swedish. And by the end of the summer, I think that you will not only know more about fire safety, you will also be fluent in Swedish. And I want to thank my colleagues, Francis Eurenius and Matthias Hammarin, working with producing this webinar. Thank you very much. And well, thank you, Francine, for this information and good project presented here today. And thanks to all of you listening and your good questions. And thanks to all of you using this information and spreading it further, because that's how we make a difference in the end. And also thanks to all of you funding us, and I hope that more of you will. We'll be back in September, as I told you, and there is a questionnaire sent out after the webinar. We like if you could answer that. That's good input for us, and you can also get in touch with us if you want to discuss anything. You can find our contacts at the webpage. So thank you very much, and have a nice summer, everyone.